Welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast, the podcast that has to work harder to cheer you all up after a defeat. This week on Heart and Hand, not sure we're going to be able to do it. Okay folks, welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name is David Edgar. I am your host and I am joined this week by pod stalwart Mr Alex Staff.
Good evening David, how are you doing?
And making his debut on the flagship show after a very promising performance on his show The Time Capsule on our Patreon subscription service is Martyn Ramsay. Good evening, Martyn.
Good evening gents, how are we?
Oh, we're grand. You ready to McCrory it right up?
I'll do my best.
Now, let's start with the defeat, and I mentioned there in the opening remarks about how it was a tough one, and you know, we've had some real bad ones, 5-1 against Celtic, etc., and you know, further back losing to part-timers, etc., but I don't know, Saturday was kind of gutting, simply because, Alex, I thought we threw it away, and that's what really hurts.
Yeah, it was disappointing in that respect, rather than anger or anything like that, you know, rather than the St Johnstone performance earlier this season, for example, which was just, you know, a capitulation. This game was right there for the taking. I worked with a Hibs fan who was discussing it today, and he said the minute it went one each and you could hear the way Ibrox was rocking, he thought game was over. He thought they were going to lose, and I'd imagine everybody in the stadium felt the same way. You know, Rangers were going to go on and win that. So yeah, that's just made it all the more gutting, really.
Martyn, going into the match, I'll describe the match first of all. I'm sure most of our listeners will have heard it, but for anyone who have seen it, but for anyone who hasn't, first half, Rangers are dominated. There's no point trying to deny it. Hibs totally win the midfield battle. From that, they make a number of chances and some good opportunities. However, Rangers do have a good opportunity, although it's really two chances that comes from one good attack. When Josh Windass is put through, his shot is saved on the rebound, eventually comes to Graeme Murty, and his shot is blocked. After that, it looks as though maybe we've ridden it out and we'll get to half time and can make changes, but then John McGinn's allowed to run 30 yards unchallenged with the ball and smash one into the bottom corner. I'd probably like to talk about Wes and his long shots here as well, lads, so bear that in mind. That'll be coming up as well. But then into the second half, complete change around, and within the first 5 minutes, Rangers suddenly have made more opportunities in the first 5 minutes of the second half than they did in the whole of the first, and really grasp the game, take it to Hibs. Hibs midfield, much vaunted midfield, completely taken out of the match by Rangers, and Rangers eventually get back into it with a well-taken goal, a free kick from Sean Goss, which hits the bar, comes down, and then goes in off the keeper. And at that point, Alex alluded to it, Ibrox is absolutely rocking. Rangers look set for the victory. I certainly believed we were going to go on and win it, and I don't think, as Alex mentioned, anyone in the stadium would have argued with me. However, moments after we do that, we then leave ourselves very open on our right-hand side. Eventually the ball finds its way to Scott Allen in the box, and what can only be described as a rush of blood. James Tavernier puts two hands on him. I think shove would be maybe putting it a bit too far, but he does certainly go into him and put two hands on his back. Allen, of course, goes down. Penalty is awarded. It's put away. Wes almost gets to it, but doesn't keep it out. A bit unlucky there. And after that, the air goes out the stadium, Martyn, and we don't look like getting back into it. Now, first things first, within the opening 45, we were really badly bossed in that midfield, and I'm very disappointed, because if you ask anybody with a working knowledge of Scottish football Hibs' strength, they will tell you they have a good midfield. They have a better midfield than most clubs at their level would normally have. We didn't really do anything to combat that in that opening spell.
We didn't. The overriding sense that I had leaving the stadium was just frustration. Things can happen in football games that are completely out of the blue. You can't legislate for. Most of the time you get away with these things. Tav's decision at the end, clearly one that we didn't. But there was something we all knew. I mean, these weren't football experts. Everyone was talking about this pre-game. That we've seen in August, 2 against 3. Their 3 is a problem. I mean, we don't have some of the more defensive midfield options that we would ideally have because of injury. Even more so, then a reason just to go with numbers. But I still expected to win the game just because our attacking options are better, and hopefully that can still do. But it was a concern going into it, and you've given the initiative away right away, because that means, I know Alex and I have briefly discussed this on Twitter last night. We've conceded that advantage. I don't think they're pushed back the second half. I think they've made a reasonably conscious decision to fill in and say, well, try and get through this. And I'm not entirely sure we created any clear-cut chances either. There was a lot of shots from just outside the box, maybe just inside, and it was a kind of frustrating afternoon, even though we were seeing more of the ball. But we gave away that impetus right from the start, which we all knew was a problem, or a potential problem, and there's things you can plan for and there's things you can't, and it was just disappointing that we... Hindsight, is a thing most times, but not there. This isn't a hindsight issue. And you've said on Twitter, I think everyone has said, right, fine, you go with the start 11 that you seem to trust, but after 20 minutes it's obvious you need to make a change. And the average positions that players took up on the park would show. I mean, Holt and Goss are almost standing on top of each other in the centre circle, and there's no one around them in a blue shirt. Windass is not that far away from Morelos. And we just gave that initiative away, which is the most disappointing thing.
Alex, you're a long-term advocate of, in modern football, it's very difficult to play the kind of 4-4-2 or a version of it, because most teams these days find a way to get free into that engine room, and if we don't, we quite often, even at home, especially at home, lose that battle. So with that in mind, what was the thinking? Because Martyn touched on it there. What do you think the thinking is, that we don't have Ross McCrory, we don't have Ryan Jack, are naturally defensive-minded central midfielders. So we do have Jason Holt, who has his qualities and has been playing well, but isn't a naturally defensive-minded player. We have Sean Goss next to him, who, although he would play in that deeper role, looks to me more of a kind of playmaker type, a quarterback if you like, who can make passes and take the ball from the defence, which is obviously useful when you've got guys like Bates and Martyn, who I think are good defenders, but clearly not good footballers in inverted comma in terms of their ability on the ball. It left us really short against a Hibs midfield that was quite ready to exploit it, and did so.
The thinking was something along the lines of the Aberdeen game. I don't think, I mean, I'd done the kind of pre-match analysis pod, obviously, on Patreon, without the knowledge that Hibs had the injuries that they had, but I still didn't expect them to line up in the formation that they did. And then after 6 minutes, they changed it again. The injury to Brandon Barker meant that McGinn moved out wide, and they brought on another forward. So the biggest difference there was, it was a similar kind of battle as the Aberdeen game. You had the central midfielders, almost like 2v2 there. Then we had Windass beyond ours, and they had Scott Allen beyond theirs. The difference was they had 2 forwards on the park. So we didn't have a spare centre half to go and step in from time to time. Or, full in the knowledge that the cover's there, so it's not so bad if Scott Allen's got a little bit of space, because there's no pass on for him going forward. We just we didn't play as well as we could have. They were dominating the ball, and then they had those options up front. And in many ways, Scott Allen was being, as they say, cheating as well. He'd no intention of tracking back or anything like that. That wasn't his game. He was almost playing like a third forward at times. So, yeah, they caught Graeme Murty out. But I still believe, and I don't like to sound churlish for this, I still think it was somewhat lucky that they got the injuries that they did to force them into that shape. I don't think Neil Lennon would have played that way if he had a fully fit squad.
Well, that you can, I would say, more happy accident if I was to be charitable there, which does not come naturally when it concerns him.
Yeah.
But the fact is that however they ended up there, it was pretty apparent 20 minutes in that they had, and yet Graeme Murty didn't make any changes, and it's a concern because I'll start with Martyn, but I will come back to you, Alex, on it. This is not the first time he's been accused of taking too long to make decisions. And I don't think it's a case of he doesn't know what to do. I don't believe that for a second. I think that's far too simplistic, right? He doesn't get to where he is in football without that knowledge. So let's just completely disregard that. It's not true. But I do wonder if he's the type of guy who thinks, to use a great description, at the moment where maybe we've rolled a 3, and if I make a change we could roll a 6, but I could also roll a 1 with it. And he tends to hedge his bets. And that conservatism, arch conservatism, I don't know if it's compatible with a team who have to win every match, essentially.
No, I mean, he certainly is cautious. I think there might be an issue with just the faith he has in these particular players. Windass being a prime example. I can understand the pull he would have going into this game to play the same team the same way. The Aberdeen game still quite fresh. There's a real buoyancy about the place at the moment. But a stronger manager says to Windass, even with his hat-trick on Wednesday night, this isn't the game for you to start. We know how this 3 operate, and Alex makes a fair point about where there are other players in the park, but we know that 3 against 2 against Hibs is a big risk, and we need someone in there that's going to do a job that he can't do. I just wonder if there's just too much faith in this group of players, because he doesn't seem to want to change it too much at all. I mean, the game at Partick before the break was the prime example. I mean, I don't know how Crancher lasted into the second half, never mind nearly 70 minutes. I think you're right. He's not a dynamic coach, and the job is huge, and he's never been a permanent manager before either, and these are all I'm sure we'll come to when we look at his kind of overall record and kind of where we're going with it. But it's one of those things that you need to be the boss, because you're not guaranteed next week in this job.
No. Alex, as Martyn says, Hibs sit back a little bit, Rangers take advantage. Having watched the game back, I know what he's saying, that we didn't make many out-and-out clear-cut chances, but we did have several good opportunities to do so. And this is something that I think that we talk about in different guises and have done all season. And there are 2 examples of it, if you like, 2 categories of it, and that's the team's decision-making. We get into some great attacking positions regularly, but we quite often don't make the most of them, be it by picking out the wrong ball, be it by wanting an extra touch, be it by the delayed decisions rather than execution. And then the thing that decided the game, James Tavernier, a bad decision. First of all, he's out of position where he should be when the ball breaks down, and we are absolutely appalling at transition. Sorry to be all wanky and tactical, but we really are, especially for a team that occasionally prides itself on its ability to counter-attack. And when he's gone out of position, he's panicked a little bit, ran back, and of course, you know, has, as you put it, the brain fart, and it's a penalty, and boom, as we know, that it peters out after that. This is something that happens so often, and we never seem to do or see much evidence of it being addressed.
I'm trying to think of it from a management perspective. Addressing it's not easy, because it's not as if, you know, you're telling players to make these mistakes, you know, so they're not being coached to do that. They'll be told, you know, what the best thing is to do. They could go on the training ground and practice all day long. But ultimately, in a game, all of that, you know, goes out the window.
Should it with professional? What's the point of training? If you're not training to learn, then surely you'd be as well just doing laps around Murray Park, and we don't need to bother with coaches.
Almost, yeah. Some guys will train to learn, but you know, once you get to a certain age, your learning comes through games rather than training. You know, the experience and such like, and you know, learning from that.
I get that, but these are not kids that are constantly doing it. That, you know, these are guys who've got 100, 200, 300 games under the belt.
They do, yeah. So they've got a plateau of ability then. So yeah, you know, that might be the bigger issue. You know, that It's interesting that you say it, actually, because it's one of these things that I've noticed in the past few years, and I do just put it down to ability. The amount of times you would watch old games and you would see goals scored where, you know, one of our strikers is running through and they just square the ball across the midfielder running in for a tap in. That used to be a pretty common goal for us. It doesn't happen very often anymore.
No,
you know,
it doesn't.
It's like I can't explain why, because even teams, it wasn't as though teams are more defensive now than they were against us when we were much better. Definitely not.
I would say it was the opposite. Yeah,
exactly. Teams are probably having a bit more of a go at us in general. Yeah, that sort of goal, which was a pretty common one in the past, isn't being scored as often anymore, and it just feels like I can't help but think it's just a quality issue. You know, it's just these guys just aren't as good. So, you know, their decision making isn't as good, and it might just be that. You know, it's difficult to. Some of these guys, as you say, they've been training for years as a kid, and you know they've played 200, 300 games. If they've not learned it now, it might not be something they'll ever really learn. So it's interesting to see. I think it's a mixture. I think it's ability, and for some of them, you know, for some of the younger guys, some of the guys who are still learning their craft, there's just that kind of experience issue. You know, like a Morelos, for example, is still really learning the game up there, in that position. So I think that, you know, in his case, it could be that. Whereas for some others, it's just, you know, they're just not going to get there.
Martyn, you identified something earlier that I think is a cracking point, which is 20 minutes in, everyone, laymen in the stands, have identified what's going wrong here. Can see clearly what's going wrong here. And yet, we all know that no changes will be forthcoming until half-time at the earliest. And with Graeme Murty, it generally tends to be around the 70th minute. What is this weird convention in football that says you cannot make a substitution in 20 minutes because, you wreck the guy's confidence? But surely if it's the manager who's made the mistake and holds his hands up after it and said, I picked the wrong side, or as Alex has said, Hibs were forced into a change, but that then meant we had to make a change. But all of them seem to go, no, we muddle through, this is what we do, to the point that whenever a manager does do it, it becomes this huge talking point, and I find it really bizarre.
Yeah, there might be an ego thing there that no, this is the plan I've got, I'm going to stick with it. There could just be that paralysis of fear that you were talking about rolling the dice earlier, and well, yeah, it could work, but it might get worse. And it comes down to management just not taking responsibility for the way that the game's going, and being big enough. You said it shouldn't be on the player. It should be, it should be where the buck stops. And saying, well, that this is how we set up, but clearly things had gone a different way. I made a decision, and it was understandable. I can justify that decision. No guarantees that these things work out, but it's just being able to justify why you take decisions at the time. But it's back to decision making, and Murty is an example of that, just as much as the players you're talking about before. Morelos, for example, clearly his body language would indicate he really beats himself up when he makes the wrong decision, or doesn't execute the skills that he naturally has while doing training all week. And it's because that this environment, this club, in this particular time, is still a wee bit artificial, that it can be crippling. And just in terms of people being under pressure, still being able to execute the decisions that in the cold light of day they would normally do.
Alex, I've seen this brilliantly described by someone as, if a robot was to ping a tennis ball with extreme force at Wes from 2 yards, I'd bet on him to keep it out. But if someone was to roll Neil Lennon from the halfway line, I think it would beat him. What is this weird thing with him where he is so good at shot stopping from close distance, where there's some saves he makes you think he'd no right to get on that, and one-on-ones he's terrific, and yet he does seem to be beaten consistently from outside the box, and they're not all world-class strikes. We're not that unlucky.
Saying that, I don't think it's too often you can say, oh, he's made an absolute howler there. You know, we kind of look at it and think, for some of them you think he could have done better. You know, I don't think it's been too often where you've looked at it and went, Jesus, that was terrible.
No, but
it's this kind of fine line, you know.
But it's a regularly identifiable thing that keeps happening. I've moaned on here before. I think he gets his starting position wrong quite a lot, and that's why when at the long shots in the box in the middle of a melee, or when he sees somebody coming in, I think he sets himself very well. But I think that his concentration kind of wanders a wee bit when the game's further out. But Saturday, I do have a wee bit of blame for him because he's time to get into the right position, and we can talk about, there's no way McGinn should have been allowed to run as far as he was, but he can see that happening, and yet I think he sticks in the wrong place and he invites that shot into the faraway corner, where realistically it's probably going anyway, and yet doesn't get across, doesn't even get near to
it. Yeah. It's difficult. I mean, I still rate him as a goalkeeper, but I do take this point. He does seem to have a weakness here, and you only need to look at even sheer statistics will tell you that. We're one of the higher teams in the league for letting in goals from outside the box. So there's something going on. And as you say, it's not as if he's just getting beat by world class strikes all the time. I just think that he's not making howlers with them. I don't know. Starting position's a good one to bring up. I sometimes feel as though he doesn't move his feet quickly enough.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I don't know if you guys get that at all
totally.
From it. Sometimes I feel as though he takes a dive quite early, whereas he probably, with a bit quicker feet, could have had that extra step,
Mm-hmm.
Sorry guys, is this not just back to what we've talked about for the past 5 minutes? When some of our players have got that 2 or 3 seconds to think about what they're doing, there's mistakes. But when there's no time to think about anything, and the ball, like the Aberdeen game at the end, when it's like a pinball machine, he's got no time to think about it, and he just reacts. He just does his job, and he's very good at that. But again, add a few more seconds into that, there's a bit of panic.
Yeah, it's almost like if there's a space for them to make a mistake, if there's a time for them to make a mistake, they do. If there isn't, they don't. And as you say, when they're playing on instinct and they execute it really well, they do. It's just something that frustrates me because he's such a good goalkeeper and he does make so many great stops, and then you see him get beaten by these shots that I do think are savable, Alex. That's the thing. I think he can get to them. And
possibly,
some of them no, but some of them, I mean, this is not the first time this season I've looked at a goal going in and thought he could have done better there.
Here's a question, just off the top of your head, because you've got me thinking about him now. How many of those shots that you've looked at and thought he could have done better have been low or across the ground?
All of them.
Yeah, pretty much
all of them, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of. If someone pings one towards the top corner, we've seen him make some great saves from distance. But the ones that are drilled low to either side seem to cause him a bit more issue. So, is it? I mean, I don't know. Is that a height issue here? Are we talking about someone who isn't quick enough at getting down?
Well, sometimes I think, but sometimes I think that the height issue goes the other way, in that I used to think that Boric was particularly bad for this, and he's 6'4", 6'5". Joe Hart, I think, is particularly bad for this, and he's the same. So I don't know why him being that bit shorter would be an issue. But I think you've identified absolutely the weakness, which is low shots into the corner. And again, though, it's not one mistake. Very little in football happens. Even the Tav penalty incident comes by people being in the wrong position, people making the wrong decisions. And again, if you've got a goalkeeper who's susceptible to low shots, don't let guys run 30 yards and hit a shot unchallenged. Seems to be a good way of dealing with that. Yeah,
I think I personally have the opinion that that's came from. We've all mentioned it. You mentioned earlier. We're not very good in the transition defensively. I was talking about Hibs formation meant that our centre halves couldn't step forward because they had the two pacey forwards up against them. So it was up to our midfielders to kind of cover those gaps in front of them, and that's where this came from. And as Martyn said as well, it's just that there was that softness in midfield between Holt and Goss in some respects, and a lack of numbers as well. So I think McGinn's goals came from a combination of all of that. It's taken a bad bounce for Candace, So he lost out on the ball. McGinn's driving away. As much as we all hate him and think he's overrated, he is a good player.
He is a good player. I've never said he wasn't a good player. I just don't think he's
a good player. He's not as good as some people make him out to be, but he's a good player. And I think he should have moved on from Hibs by now and extended his, taken a bit of bigger challenge. And he would kick on even more. But he's driving away, and you can see it. And when you look back at it, Holt and Goss are struggling to get back to him. Now, normally what you would look for then is a centre-half to step out and try and block that shot. But with Hibs having the two up top, they weren't able to do that. They're just backing off because any one of them steps out and it's a simple pass in behind them. So yeah, it was a kind of mixture of everything. Just one thing I'd like to slightly disagree on, guys, from earlier in terms of, it wasn't a great first half and Hibs were better. It's taken that goal to break us down. So... it's taking that goal to go in 1-0 ahead, and then we've come out with exactly the same players second half. I don't think they've sat in. I think we've just became a hell of a lot better. I think they needed to sit in.
I think Hibs played really well in the first half, and I think that is something that you do need to be honest about and say it wasn't like we were awful. And see, St Johnstone again is such a good comparison because I don't think St Johnstone had to be exceptional to beat us that day. I think that they just had to be kind of 6-7 out of 10 right across the park, whereas I thought Hibs in the first half were excellent, couldn't maintain it, and that's one of the other reasons I criticise McGinn, is that he couldn't maintain that standard the whole 90 minutes, and we then took advantage. The crowd got on, and I think the mentality of any team at Ibrox who are not Celtic, which is right, here they come kind of thing, we need to hold on. So all of that is valid, but Martyn, we've gone through a lot of kind of tactical, breaking it down, quite granular look at it. Let's now go with a big, swinging, big brush approach to this. Are we far too frilly? Are we far too nice and too easy to play against?
Possibly, and you would call for someone who likes a tackle, but then they get sent off, so...
Yes. Yeah, then we go down to 10 men, you're right.
If you're asking for us to have a Souness or a Hurlock or whatever in there, we tend not to keep those players on the park when maybe other teams have their own version of that, and they get away with that for quite a while. Possibly. I always kind of cringe a wee bit when it's the kind of Scottish reaction. Really, we need to be tougher, and we could have just set up a wee bit smarter on Saturday. That's it. Against Aberdeen, it's absolutely fine. Against most teams, it should be fine because we've got better attacking options than most teams do. It just needed a wee bit more nous, I think, rather than anyone absolutely charging into tackles. We maybe lacked a bit of intensity in the first half that we've showed in recent games, and we showed that in the second half, and we might have to disagree or agree to disagree as to whether we pinned them back or they took that kind of conscious decision to try and hit us in the break and see if they could break that down. But it's probably fair enough, but we tend not to get away with it when we do have players like Jack who, I don't know how many games he missed for suspension.
Yeah, and of course infamously didn't deserve literally half of them. Now, we of course like to praise people when they do well, and we criticise them when they don't. And I know that some people feel that with football fans that makes us fickle. It doesn't. It's just, I think, being consistent. I think, if someone does well, but then on here we will say that week, didn't they do really, really well, and praise them, and in a week that they do badly, then we're going to look at it from a different angle. And personally, I don't find that in any way strange or odd or fickle. I think it's just, as facts change, your opinion is allowed to change, and we like to chat about it. So with that in mind, Graeme Murty, who we have been praising lately, and I think deservedly so, but after the match on Saturday, you view it through a different prism. And a point that was put to me by my old friend Sir Duncan Ferguson was that he now has 7 defeats in 19 league matches. Now, that's over his 2 spells, okay? So we do need to bear that in mind. But he has 7 defeats now in 19 league matches. He has 7 defeats in 22 matches overall. Pedro, who we all, I think, pretty much by the end agreed it was time to get rid of, had 7 defeats in 26. and we were all, this guy's a fraud, get him out. Dunk asks, and I think I would like to talk about this, and I'll kick off with you first, Martyn. Why is Graeme Murty therefore seen as a credible managerial appointment when Caixinha, who I don't think anyone would argue should still be here, was effectively chased for a similar, if not slightly better record?
Optics for a start. Caixinha was a mental case, clearly, and he was setting the place on fire as he struggled with a lot of that. Murty hasn't lost to Celtic. He hasn't lost 5-1 to Celtic. He hasn't lost to Progress, and these defeats, they count for double. The some supporters. I'm not entirely sure how consistent the feeling is, either amongst the support or the boardroom, that this is a credible permanent appointment. I think we know the short to medium term position we're going to have him for the end of the season. And if that means that it buys the board some kind of time to really get this right in the summer, then most of us are fine with that. I think what's changed on Saturday was, up until then, there was a clear pattern with Murty's results. Good against good teams, and pretty dreadful against the rest. And he seemed able to almost conduct the electricity that these big games naturally produce, and just kind of keep that in a kind of nice optimum bubble. The players weren't going over the top and they weren't going within themselves. They just managed to motivate players very well, using the natural energy of these bigger games. He seemed completely unable to create that natural energy for the other games when Ibrox sits back and goes, well, when you go, entertain us and do your job. So there's a clear defined pattern there that if we could get that natural energy going, or create that new energy, and it doesn't get produced naturally, then maybe you never know. Maybe there's something in there. Saturday's kind of bust that bubble a wee bit. It might just be a temporary setback, and we'll find out. But I think we're in a slightly different situation. We don't have a permanent manager thinking, geez, we need to push the button on this guy. There's a fixed term contract really there, if you know what I mean. And I think we're all working within that prism. Is that fair?
I think so, and before anyone jumps on us listening to this, say, back the team, and you were saying this guy was great 2 weeks ago. It's a discussion show, and we're just having a discussion just about Murty's, because I think, as results are going well, you do begin to think, well, maybe this guy could do this job permanently, and I don't think that's wrong, because after thoroughly good win against Aberdeen, after getting out an away trip where we hadn't looked like doing that in a lot of matches, had he won this game, I think it's perfectly credible to start thinking. And again, I do think, Alex, we're still in, and will be for a while, a game-to-game basis at the moment, because such have been the results over the past 18 months.
Martyn made a good point there in terms of the difference between the bigger games as such and the normal games. It's a bit disrespectful, I guess, but there's a good reason for calling them that. And this is the first of the bigger games where you can turn around and say it didn't work for Murty. But I would suggest, and I don't know if you guys would agree, I would say we played better against Hibs and lost than we did at Easter Road when we won.
100% agree.
Yeah, we did.
We did, yeah. So I've never been totally swayed by results, and I do understand that sounds a bit daft.
A little bit. I'm not going to lie to you, Alex.
I'm not totally swayed by them. And that's why I was just disappointed on Saturday, because if you were to take a neutral point of view, and I don't believe you should ever view football from a neutral point of view. Personally, I don't believe that. Even if you're watching a game that you have no real affinity for those two teams, if you're anything like me, you'll be 10 minutes into that game and something will have made you want a certain team to win. Because football's an emotional sport that way, where you're watching. And I don't think you can really watch just switched off, But if there was a neutral point of view on Saturday was a good game of football decided by a moment of madness. And I just came away disappointed because of all the things we talked about. It felt as though we let them off the hook at a time when, we'd done a great job to turn things around in that second half. And all of that's overshadowed by the result. I still feel as though it was positives to take from it. think that, with relation to Graeme Murty's record, this was his first defeat in a bigger match. That record was never going to stay forever, Beating Aberdeen 3 times, drawing twice with Celtic. He'd already beat Hibs and Hearts as well. He was bound to lose one of them at one point, wasn't he? So...
No, I mean, we've seen title-winning Rangers teams lose 3-0 at home to Hibs. In isolation, these games can happen. You're right, it was decided by... Well, it was finally decided by a moment of madness. I think it might be fair to say that if we had have started in maybe a smarter way, we could have taken the initiative of the game, or we'd have a better chance of taking the initiative for the game right from the top. But the one-off game, no. I think we're still going to have to wait and see what happens over the next wee while. And tomorrow's game is exactly one of those that we're going to find really tough.
Yeah. And I guess that I actually spoke to David about this after the post-match pod on Saturday. We're quite prone, I think all fans of other teams do this. If we were to watch, earlier in the season when we watched Hearts beat Celtic, for example, we were quite happy to say Hearts played really well. If they do that to us, we will say Rangers were absolutely shite.
Well, of course, because that's...
I'm not saying that's not the way it is, but... there's an irrational side to that,
Yeah, but it's also rational because when I'm watching a Rangers game, I don't view the good things the opposition do. I view the mistakes we make that allow it. And on Saturday, there was a lot of preventable mistakes, and that frustrates me, and that ties into what I'm talking about here. The thing I think with Murty is that what he needs to have any chance to get the job permanently is a run of maybe 10 matches where he wins 8, loses 2 or draws 1, loses 1. So that, given the amount of time he's got left this season, I think it was you that said this, Alex, he needs to be in that run now. This defeat needs to be the one. And he can't really, which means he now needs to go on a 4-5 winning streak.
We're in a point in our history where I think if a manager wins 5 games in a row, they get in the Hall of Fame.
Not far off it. Yeah.
To be fair, everybody gets in the Hall of Fame eventually now. Because of the dinners, I think soon enough we'll be seeing Eric Ferguson being inducted and Andy Bruce. Yeah, I think soon enough to go in. Okay, Martyn took us on to it. We have a big game tomorrow night away to Partick Thistle. We have struggled there this season, Martyn, with a 3-1 cup win, but after extra time, and a 2-each league draw. So this is not going to be a cakewalk, but when you look at the respective sides, Rangers should absolutely still be coming away from there with 3 points.
We should. I mean, I'm not going tomorrow, so we will be comfortable because I've sat through some of those recent dodges, and it's been really, really hard. And it's just that typical Scottish League away game. I mean, that's life as a Rangers manager and probably a Celtic manager as well. That they're going to sit in 5 at the back. I think it's going to be a real test of. A real test for him, given Saturday. Does he change? Does he need to change for this game? Because this doesn't probably need to flood the midfield the way that maybe Saturday did. He probably, ironically, can use his trusted line-up and formation certainly more tomorrow than Saturday. But no, it's going to be very interesting.
I think people are expecting a lot of changes, Alex, but I kind of echo Martin's thoughts there. I don't think there will be. I think you'll see. I think that the team he picked on Saturday would have been fine for Tuesday. I think he just got the team wrong on Saturday.
Potentially, yeah. And you're also looking at a run of games where there's not a lot of time on the training pitch at the moment. There's game, recovery, one training session, light one because we got a game the next day. It's been a little bit of a run that way. So when you're talking about changes like that, a lot of managers don't like to make them if they've not got a few days worth of, talking about it and sorting it out with the players, So there's every chance he starts with exactly the same team. I've got a feeling he'll bring Doherty in, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's for Windass. I think that as much as Murty likes Windass, he was rather critical of him after the Fraserburgh Cup game, and I wouldn't be surprised if he finds himself on the bench tomorrow night. just make us a bit more solid in the middle of the park, and Docherty was a good player going forward anyway.
I would be surprised if Windass didn't play, genuinely, and for the reasons you've mentioned. I think he's a favourite, and I think he sees him as someone who, even if he's not playing well, can do something that might lead to a goal.
Potentially. I think Windass would have come off on Saturday if Candias hadn't been booked. He got his booking early, he'd had another couple of fouls, and he just made that choice between those two. It's not, we've seen him sub Windass before. I've just got a feeling there's a frustration with Murty at the moment, aimed at Windass in terms of, here's what I want you to do, you're not really doing that. I can see him just benching him for this one. And just a small bit of rotation that way. Bring in Greg Docherty, who will be absolutely desperate to get on that pitch. He must be itching to get a good run now. That might be about the only change I can see, though. There's just not the options in midfield to mix it up much more than that. No, up front, Cummings isn't sharp yet. I think that's pretty clear.
He's not going to get sharp if he doesn't play.
He's not, no, but we'll get the Ayr United game at the weekend. It would probably be seen as a better opportunity for starting them,
Yeah.
Possibly. One or two changes at the absolute most, yeah. I don't expect a number of them. No. And to be honest, as I've said earlier, there were positives in the second half in the way we played. So maybe it would, continuing it wouldn't be so bad. I don't know if you guys watched or seen any of Liverpool Spurs.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I watched it.
Now, there was an interesting point made in that. I missed most of the first half. And David and I actually had a little small conversation with someone on Twitter who asked us a question, because Spurs struggled, or seemed to struggle a lot in the first half. As I say, I didn't see it all, but Pochettino was getting a bit of stick for not changing it early, and he's never got a second plan. All very similar criticism as Murty was getting on Saturday, actually. Spurs stuck with what they were doing, and in the second half probably should have won the game. They were much, much better.
They didn't stick with what they were doing. They set up exactly like us, 4-2-3-1, and they were swamped, as predicted by many people. In the second half, Eriksen's clearly far deeper. Yeah. Now, he's far more ability than George Windass to go far deeper. And anytime Liverpool were kicking out from a goal kick or whatever, he's taken a far deeper position in the second half than I think he did in the first. And lo and behold, they get a grip on the second half. They did change it.
There was also a physical aspect to that which surprised me, which is Spurs. I think those are the two fittest teams in England, but Spurs were fitter.
Liverpool ran their legs out, from what I could see for 60 minutes.
And that surprised me, but yeah, there were a couple of tactical changes by Spurs. They also moved Son, who effectively was playing much further forward, and they moved him kind of wider and deeper in the second half. So that they did make changes, but
slight changes, and much the way we did as well in the second half, but it wasn't wholesale. It wasn't a sub or anything like that,
No,
which
but
I'm pretty sure that the Spurs fans would have been calling for.
Yeah, but then again, they have better players. You can ask players, you can ask Eriksen to do a different job. You can ask Son to do a different job. You can ask Dyer to do several jobs. They have better players, and you add that into them tiring, them being able to bring on a guy like Wanyama, who's physical strength at a time when a team is tiring is terrifying. So, no, I do get that. But, one thing though, lads, let's not forget, Kenny Miller's back.
Yeah. The reason I brought up Spurs and Liverpool was actually in the aftermatch. It was a comment that Graeme Murty made. It was somewhat off the cuff, but he was talking about, they didn't play well in the first half, but like any proper team, they stuck with what they were doing and they turned it round. That was, his exact words. Like any proper team, they stuck with what they were doing. And I just, I felt a bit sorry for some of the criticism Murty was taking during the game when, it's 60 minutes and we're completely dominant and people are still screaming at him to make a change. And I'm thinking, well, to be honest, things are going right here. We've just not got the goal yet, So, I can absolutely take the points about the first half not working well and the setup not going great. I think that's as much to do with the available players as it was his mistakes. I think that's a pretty shared responsibility. But, second half he got things right, and the changes potentially didn't work, because once it went one each, I know we've given away a daft goal, but with 15 minutes and it probably didn't work. We were probably stronger before them.
But that's when the human element kicked in, Alex, and I think that was a psychological thing at that point. I think that the air completely went out of everybody and that affected the players. So I don't think it's tactics at that point. I think it was a mentality thing, and our players, they kept going, but they didn't have the verve and the belief that they'd been showing up to that point after the penalty, because it's there's certain goals, the manner of them, the timing of them, the fact that we had, as I say, completely shot ourselves in the foot, I think badly affected them. But we'll move on because we've covered that quite thoroughly now. So normally on the show we tend to avoid talking about our noisy neighbours from the east for the obvious reason that they're really irritating and not worth talking about. But occasionally they are, of course, the masters of hypocrisy and statements that do genuinely stop you in your tracks. And this week I thought we really should give mention to a couple of crackers from them. First of all, Scott Brown asserted that he was now a marked man by referees after being booked at the weekend, and said this was all due to Craig Levein and his comments after the recent Hearts-Celtic game. Martyn, did you have a lot of sympathy for the incredibly ugly, moaning-faced, jump-the-dike bastard?
Yeah, my heart was bleeding. He is a poor soul. He's just playing the game, though, isn't he? Levein, one manager who's willing to come out and call it as it is. I mean, he's a thug.
And he does get away with tons.
Yeah, Murty would probably shake him by the hand and give him a cuddle, but he's just playing the game back and just trying to put pressure back on referees. It's this PR mind game thing that some people say about Mourinho, that his match day starts on the Friday afternoon when he's doing his presser, and it's just getting back into the minds of the referee that he should be allowed to do what he likes, carte blanche.
Alex, did you feel sympathy then? Because I know that you sometimes can see things from a different point of view. Did you think, yeah, that's fair enough, Bruni?
I'm not sure I see if it's quite that different.
Well played.
No, I don't think I'll have sympathy for him. Personally, I'm of the opinion this is where the referee's ability to actually say something, the fact that they're completely neutered from explaining decisions or responding to criticism.
It's madness.
Well, this is one of the situations where this is a problem, because Scott Brown's coming out and essentially saying, I'm picking up more yellow cards than I deserve.
In one game. After the comments that he says has caused it, he's picked up one booking. Game after
it, and by all accounts deserved his yellow card. So, if referees weren't, or even just a representative for them was able to actually address this, I'd love somebody just to be able to put it in front of them and go, show me which yellow cards you've got this season that you didn't deserve.
Yeah.
Show me any one of them. Because I would doubt he would be able to point to more than two. And any player in his position picks up a couple of bookings for next to nothing, right? It's like, I severely doubt it, and I'd be willing to bet, he wouldn't even have to do this, but I'd be willing to bet you could point to many, many challenges he hasn't been booked for that he should have been. So, no, I don't. You can't have any sympathy for him, but this is part of the problem. No one's got the right to respond. It takes Craig Levein on what seems to be a cracking fishing trip at the moment. Winding Neil Lennon up, and now winding Scott Brown up. Seems to be enjoying himself. He's laughing. The way he was just laughing about that, Neil Lennon's reaction, really did. I almost felt myself. I know exactly the struggle towards Levein.
Yes, I know exactly the struggle that a couple of times lately I've found myself warming to fucking Millhouse, and I'm like, oh man, this cannot be allowed to happen. What's happening to you, David?
And it won't. He'll try and do it to us soon, because as I say, he seems to be on a bit of a mission for that. He's almost like the cantankerous old man now, isn't he?
Yeah, he doesn't give a fuck now. That's quite apparent. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he's done his bit. He's got his Scotland job. He knows he's never going to get back into any sort of heights like that. So now he just thinks, I'm just going to say what the fuck I want. I think that he's clearly winding everybody up. Neil Lennon's not difficult to wind up. Scott Brown's not difficult to wind up, and they've big time.
Yes.
But it takes, it has to take a manager to come out and say this, who's then running the line of, bringing the game into disrepute, as they say.
Oh no, you don't need to worry about that. Look at Chris Boyd. That doesn't happen anymore. The disrepute law. It went with Stuart Reagan last week, I think.
Yeah, but even an ex-referee wouldn't come out and say anything about this up here.
He wouldn't be allowed to. He wouldn't be given a platform to.
Exactly, and this is part of the issue. I can understand protecting the referees to an extent when it comes to the not discussing decisions. I wouldn't ask them to do it straight after a game. I think that would be unfair, but I think they should be allowed to do so with a little bit of here's what I thought at the time, looking at it, yeah, I made a mistake. I know that's going to piss people off, but I think that's better than just saying, do not say anything, never respond to anybody. I don't think that works either.
Especially in, I think, an increasingly information savvy and information being readily available age. I agree with you. I think that silence now just creates more questions. But the other thing he said, and this I did find really, really irritating, was he said Kilmarnock at the end were over celebrating, and in fact had celebrated like they'd won the World Cup. I don't recall Kilmarnock tying scarves onto the goalposts. I don't recall Kilmarnock bringing on one of their kind of, whatever he's, an ambassador I believe they call him, child supporters onto the park, and generally acting like they had won the league that day. I think Kilmarnock may have celebrated a win they were long odds to get. And it's just so Celtic, Martin. They can give it out, but they just cannot take it.
No, especially if you carry yourself with the kind of decorum, and just if you win, even big games, then that's what you're there to do. Especially when you've got the kind of financial advantages, sporting advantages that they've had of late. So when they behave the way they do about beating us, apparently a new club and one in complete turmoil, then yeah, it does stink a wee bit. It's just a bitterness immediately after the game, though, isn't it? We used to do it, if we're being honest.
No, but we're fans.
Cup draws, we don't have to get a replay, and teams are taking a lap of honour.
Yeah, but we're fans. We're allowed to. Fans are allowed to be a bit hypocritical. It's part of the joy of the game. But this is, I think, a genuine attitude that emanates from there. And you can see it with Rodgers as well, that they basically think they should be allowed to do what they want, and if any club gives them anything back, they explode because they're just so not used to it.
It's starting to now, though, isn't it? I mean, Levine might not be the last to kind of chip away at that. They couldn't possibly have the season they had last season again, so there's going to be a wee bit of a fall, and that just creates some holes to poke open. And when you think you're invincible and you kid on you haven't lost 7-1 as part of that time of invincibility, then yeah, it will hurt a wee bit.
Alex, do you think that Kilmarnock over-celebrated what I think was a pretty good win for them?
Absolutely not, no. I wouldn't imagine. I didn't unfortunately get to see the end of the game, because I had to leave to get to Ibrox, but I would imagine their celebrations were pretty similar to when they beat us.
They were exactly the same. They were exactly the same.
And all we would do, I would hope, and Russell Martin kind of alluded to this after Saturday, is that you kind of look at the celebrations, internalise that almost anger, and figure that you're going to go and make up for it in the next one, and that you would think that would be their response after so many good wins and so many, and strolling the league last season and still being pretty comfortable looking this season. You wouldn't think they'd need to spit the dummy at a 1-0 defeat where they lost 2 players to injury inside the first 20 odd minutes, etc. You'd think a player like Brown would just be coming out and saying, wasn't our day, but a bad luck, maybe a wee moan about the pitch and move on, and if he's pissed off with Kilmarnock, he can smash one of the players next time he plays them and get away with it, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that kind of sums it up. But yes, there is no club in the world like Celtic when it comes to hypocrisy. I will give them that. They are out in front of anyone when it comes to that, as well as certain other unsavoury things that we won't talk about. Okie doke, folks, thank you very much for listening to us tonight. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping. Firstly, with our show in Dunfermline, we will be joined by Mr. Kevin Thompson, my future best friend. That I had, when I put the tickets up, put the same amount up as we always put up for the Loudon, and someone pointed out to me afterwards that this place holds more. So we have another 40 tickets for that show, which I will put up later this week. They will go on sale on Thursday night at 7 p.m. Please be quick, because we sold out in the first night the last time. Thursday night 7 p.m. They'll be on Twitter and Facebook. If you just have a look for them there, there's another 40 tickets. If you want to come on the 3rd of March to see us and Kevin Thompson live in Dunfermline, and if you talk to anyone who was at the show in the Loudon, they'll tell you he is very much worth seeing. You can do so. If you want to hear a bit more from all of us, we've all got shows, individual shows on the Patreon site. Alex does the match previews, and sails a bit close to the wind, actually. Alex, you're the closest we've came so far to being shut down, which people might find surprising, having heard your sober head on here.
I would think that, people would be shocked by that. What I'm most shocked by is the fact that line doesn't seem to have been brought up by anybody that listens to it. Which makes me wonder if anybody's actually listening.
No, let's not draw attention to it. Martyn, if you'd like to tell the people about your show, The Time Capsule.
We look back at classic Rangers games throughout the years. We put a poll up on the site with 4 games, and the patrons get to vote on which one they want us to do a show on. I've got a guest with me who was at the game. We look in the game in a lot of detail. We look at what life was like around the time of the game, and then hopefully try and place that game, that team, those players in a bit of perspective.
So the week I was on was the game was 1988, the 5-1 against Celtic, and the Glasgow Garden Festival. So it brought back a lot of memories for me in that regard. But if you want to come, there's loads and loads of new shows. There's new shows appearing every day, and by that I mean new shows as well as all our regulars that have built up already. It's only $1.99 per month if you want to come in and have a listen to that. We'd promised when we started it that we were going to look to do 20 to 25 hours extra content a month. We're doing about 35 to 40 with more to come, so there is loads and loads. You never need listen to Radio Clyde again. That's we can promise you that. If you don't like me, you can listen to hours and hours of content that I'm not on, so there's something for everyone there. But if you're happy just to listen to us on the 2 weekly free shows, we are very grateful to you for doing so, and please continue to. We'll be back on Thursday with a Partick analysis and a look ahead to Sunday's Cup tie at Ayr United. So all that remains for me to do is thank our executive producers in London, Mr Mike Lee and Mr Paul Miles, to thank my guests tonight at Mr Alex Staff.
Right, thanks and cheers, gentlemen, that was great.
And Mr Martyn Ramsay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much for listening, and we will be back again on Thursday. Cheers, bye.